Introduction. How Margaret and George stared into each other's eyes from across the romantic candlelit dinner painted quite the contrast to where they were a few months prior. With laughter in their hearts and love in the air, they felt closer to one another than ever before, even more in love than they were on their wedding day. But that was not always the case. In fact, if you saw them 6 months earlier, you probably would have thought they were heading straight for a divorce. Unable to go a day without arguing, Margaret and George were almost certain they would not see their 4th anniversary. Yet, as they sat across from one another in the romantic restaurant, sharing their favorite dessert and planning their weekend trip away, they were happier than ever. What happened? What changed within their lives so drastically that they went from shipwreck to dreamboat in months? Communication. You might be reading this and thinking that communication could not turn a relationship around so dramatically, but let me assure you that the significance of communication in a relationship should not be overlooked. Perhaps you are reading this, aware of communication's power but unsure how to apply it in your own life, and to you, I want to say you're not alone. For many years, I was aware that communication could make or break a relationship, yet I struggled with it in my own relationships. I thought that good communication meant avoiding arguments, and it was only later that I learned that mastering communication meant building deeper, more meaningful connections with my partner. Over the years, I have learned a great deal about communication. More importantly, I had a front row seat to witness how communication should not be used in relationships. My parents divorced when I was very young. I watched my mother throughout her 4 marriages and my father through his 3, noticing their patterns of negative communication or a lack of communication altogether. However, it was only after I experienced my own divorce that I truly realized that communication was at the core of all the issues. After my divorce, I dedicated countless hours to researching communication techniques to improve relationships. And with the help of professionals, I grew into a completely new person with communication skills I could previously have only dreamt of. Now my relationship looks a lot different. Instead of constant fighting, there is harmony, joy, and so much more love. That is my heart for this book. I want to equip you with the right communication tools and techniques to cultivate a healthy relationship. On this journey, you will receive practical, actionable strategies that you can apply at any stage of a relationship. Whether you have just started dating or have been married for decades, the techniques in this book can help you grow closer to your partner and resolve conflict in a way that is effective, kind, and caring. Here's what you can expect in every chapter of this journey. In the first chapter, we will examine the basics of communication, exploring the different types of communication, and why good communication is essential in a relationship. Next, we will explore the techniques of active listening. We will focus on actually hearing what our partner has to say instead of simply listening to find a comeback. After active listening, we will dive into assertive communication and what that means. We will debunk some myths regarding assertive communication and explore why it is essential and how to apply it to our relationships with kindness and empathy. In Chapter 4, we will tackle the mountain of conflict resolution. While the conflict in your relationship might currently feel like an endless loop of despair and arguments, we will explore how to break free from the loop and resolve conflicts in a way that is effective and cultivates growth. Later, we will look at daily communication and the role of positive interactions in a relationship. It is often not one big conversation that leads to the small interactions we have every day, which we overlook. In Chapter 6, we will discover how to face and approach difficult conversations and how to maintain clarity and empathy through it all. Not all communication will be easy and lighthearted, but even tough conversations can lead to a closer connection between you and your partner. Lastly, we will look at the importance of continuous growth and learning. Even after years of communicating with your partner, there is always room to grow and learn as we continue to evolve our communication skills. All of this might seem so simple, and that is where the secret lies. We don't have to overcomplicate things to see results. I have seen too many relationships fall victim to poor communication, and if we take things back to the basics and learn how to speak to one another properly, it will create the foundation for a successful relationship. However, if you want this journey to be successful, you will need commitment and engagement. I want to encourage you to not just read this book, but to actively engage with the content presented to you. As you read through the different techniques, reflect on your own communication habits and the areas you wish to improve. Make the content your own as you apply the techniques every step of the way. I can almost promise that you will barely recognize your relationship by the end of the journey as you enjoy the closer intimacy and connection. Why don't we start right now? Before we jump into the first chapter, take 5 minutes to think about your communication with your partner. If you're single, think about your previous relationship. What was the last argument you had with your partner about? How did you both react to one another's emotions and responses? Do you think it could have been handled better? Write down how you would score your current communication skills and 3 things you hope to learn throughout this journey. Remember, make it as personal as possible. Don't just be a reader, but engage in the process as much as you possibly can. Trust me, your relationship will thank you for it later. Once you have taken a few minutes to reflect on your current communication skills, it's time to jump in and return to the basics of communication. You've got this.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.